Hey everybody. Hey everybody, this is Alex and this is the second video from my series about the Giga Berlin factory tour. Today we talk about stamping and there's a reason why we do that. Everybody who participated in the Giga Factory tour started in a pretty odd way, I have to say, because usually you try to understand the material flow in a factory in order to understand the different phases of production, you know, what they do with the material and how is this merged together and assembled and all of that. But this didn't happen with Tesla. I mean, they did a good job in terms of giving a showcase, a glimpse into how it could look like in the future. But the reality is all the machines didn't really work. I mean, we had background noise, but this was not the normal noise, simply because if you have material in there, it sounds a little bit different. But people told me it's pretty similar, so I buy that. But in terms of the flow of the visitors and the flow of material, the reality is a little bit different. They didn't show us all the process steps either, so which is understandable because the tour was, I think, 2 kilometers in 1.5 hours. If they would have done everything, and probably they can't because not all machinings are there yet, if they would have done that, that would probably be in a 3-hour tour or something like that. So it made a lot of sense to shorten that. It made a lot of sense to give a showcase, a glimpse of how it looks like because the reality is a little bit different, but that's fine. So because we, in this video, in this series of videos, we start with the material flow. I mean, we follow the material flow. One way to start is with stamping, because at stamping you get kind of the raw material into the process. A second one is casting, where you get the metal in the process, which is another video I'm going to record. And the third one is about batteries, which is another video I'm going to record. And all the three, you know, material flow and work processes lead to a situation where the semi-finished products finally being merged or assembled into a final product, the car. And that's how we are going to approach this. So let's get started and let's talk about stamping. What looks like an amazing piece of art is actually a Model Y. So all parts that you see here on these pictures are stamped parts. So there was a reason why Tesla was hanging them from the roof. And the reason is simple, because, you know, they wanted to show all the stamped parts. People thought this is just an eye catcher. It's much more than that. And, you know, you can look here, there are the doors and the front and, you know, sometimes even smaller pieces, the inner doors. So you have a lot of parts in a car, in a vehicle, for the body that you stamp out of a machine. And Tesla is using a 2.5 tons machine that is producing in an amazing rate. So the frequency is quite impressive. What you see here are the sheets that go in the machine, and they are coming from these coils that the supplier is delivering. So the sheets are pre-stamped before they go into the machine, which is a step Tesla didn't even show, and that's fine because, you know, it's a little bit boring to show too many steps, and they wanted to guide the people through in 1.5 hours. So the parts that you see here are actually not coming out of that stamping machine yet. So they want to do that, but all parts you've seen throughout the entire tour actually came from Shanghai, from the factory there. And the reason is simple. Tesla can't really start production without any approval for production, and they didn't get this at that point in time. We know now that last Friday they received an approval from the authorities in Brandenburg for 250 vehicle bodies, so they can now start stamping a lot of parts, and they don't do it to assemble a fully working vehicle at the end. They are going to do it, you know, for calibration of the machine. What is calibration? Every machine has its own life, kind of, and, you know, it's not always working perfectly, so you have to make sure that the process is done in a way that the quality of the parts that are coming out are really sufficient, because again, this is gonna be working in a very, very high frequency, and spitting out a lot of parts, and you want to make sure that each of this part is really, as you want it to be in terms of dimensions, in terms of D norms and other things. So that is the process, not a miracle. You've seen probably these pictures before with real material going in and out. And again, the reason why there is no material is simply because at that point in time, Tesla had already the approval on Friday, but these pictures have been made on Saturday, so they couldn't really change anything here for the factory tour and for the county fair. Such a press, of course, has a mold, so form the material is pressed into, which you see here, which is another amazing piece of technology. In particular, if you know this 2.5 tons of weight all the time there. I mean, this is this is just outlandish. That's a pretty amazing weight, and it keeps it in forms and for a long time. The forklift is actually here bringing material back and forth to the other steps of the production in terms of assembly, but there are also steps right after the stamping machine, the big one here. So this is not a one-step process only. There are, they drill holes in there, or there are other steps that they need to do in order to make it ready for assembly later on. It's not everything perfect that is coming out of the machine. So there are always steps like that. And they do this, and these are doors for, actually, as I showed before, all different parts and side parts of the vehicle, right and left, of course. And you see here a huge amount of them standing already, which was interesting because I've been asking myself why so many, but they need, of course, also these parts for later testing of the other steps. If we talk about, assembly or the handling of the robots of these parts, maybe that's a reason, hard to say. But again, I had confirmation from several people. There's nothing being produced yet in Giga Berlin. The only exception is the casting, and I will talk about the casting parts later on. So I hope you enjoyed it. This was the stamping machine, and stay tuned for the next, part.